talk about equations, all types of equations, inequalities, everything like that. So if you want to look for anything in this topic, you're going to look at number systems and equations in your OneNote. I'm going to flip this page to do number 6 on the back. I think this is a better one to do. So the first thing you're going to want to do is I would distribute this 2 out to get 2x plus 2 over 3. And then I can keep this one as is for now. Then you're going to want to split it up into some fractions. So I have 2x over 3 plus 2 over 3 minus x over 6 minus 1 over 6 equals 1. So now, because these things don't divide out nicely, you're going to have to look for a common denominator. This one is tricky. You can't really use decimals with it. So the common denominator between 3 and 6 is 6. So I'm going to multiply every numerator by 6. So that way this denominator will divide by that number. So 2 times 6 is 12x over 3, 12 over 3 minus 6x over 6 minus 6 over 6. So then now they divide. So now they're doing what I want it to do. So I have 4x plus 4 minus x minus 1 equals negative 1, or I'm sorry, positive 1. You can combine like terms. 4x minus x is 3x. 4 minus 1 is 3. I can subtract 3 on both sides. I get 3x equals negative 2. Divide by 3. And I get x equals negative 2/3. Okay? So if you can get decimals and you want to work with decimals, you can. But if you can't, you got to remember how to get them to divide out, or you can totally work with the fractions too. Your calculator will use fractions. Just make sure you put parentheses around each fraction. Okay, so that is a little bit of a review on equation solving. The next thing I'm going to talk about is literal equations. So it says, I'm going to look at number 2 in this one. It says solve the following equation for x. So that means I want to get x by itself. So if you look, x is in this parentheses kind of. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute this because I want to get all the x's to one side. So AB times D is ABD. AB times X is ABX equals X. And so if you ever get to this point, you notice there's X's on both sides, you're going to want to get X's all to one side. So if I subtract ABX on both sides, I'm left with ABD equals X minus ABX. And this is kind of where we get back into our GCF. What is the GCF of these two terms? Well, they both have an x, so I can pull an x out of both of those terms, and I'm left with x parentheses 1 minus ab. So now that I have x by itself, these two mean multiplication, so I can just divide by 1 minus ab on both sides. So if you look up here, I have abd divided by 1 minus ab is equal to x. And I can just leave that as my final answer. I don't need to simplify that anymore. Okay? So that's probably the hardest one you'll see because that deals with the GCF and you got to recognize to take that out. But the other ones should be pretty straightforward. Look at your notes, look at your answer key, and you should be good with those. The next ones I kind of want to talk about are inequalities. So yes, you can solve regular inequalities like 1 and 2, put them on a number line, and you're good. Number 3 is called a compound inequality. And that's where we kind of have to make sure we are refreshed on this. And this one is an OR inequality. So if you remember, compound inequalities are written as like a one long thing, and your job is to split it up into 2 inequalities that you kind of have to solve. Okay, so I'm going to split this one up like this. So I'll have 5x minus 6 is greater than 3x minus 10. That's one inequality I'm going to solve. And the other one is going to be 3x minus 10 is greater than negative 36 plus 5x. And so I'm going to solve 2 of those separately, and then I can get my answer. So I'm just going to solve these real quick. If you want to pause the video and solve them by yourself, you can. I did not divide by a negative, so I'm going to keep my sign the same.